This is the one conference tournament, I think, in the country where everybody in the city is plugged into what's going on. You can just feel the buzz in the air. And ever since they built this Power and Light District and put it just gives everybody a centralized meeting spot. I mean, look at how many people. There are thousands of people here right now that don't even have tickets to the game. They're just here to be a part of it and take it in on the big screen.
And this is when it's down a little bit right now. You know, the fans of this game will be pouring in. KU fans are maybe still showing up a little bit, though there were a lot of them here this morning too. So it really is incredible. Now let's talk about this conference, because I've really felt, and I know I'm a little biased with the Big Ten and Wisconsin, I felt all year like that was the best conference in basketball. I've changed my tune on that, because almost everyone in this conference is going to get a bid. I mean, there are a couple, obviously, the TCUs that aren't going to get one, Texas Tech, but I mean, you're talking about almost every team getting in, West Virginia on the bubble. How good is the Big 12 right now?
There's different ways, I guess, to define what the best conference is. Is it the conference with the best teams at the top, or is it the conference with the most good teams? And I definitely think that the Big 12 falls in that second category. You know, the Jayhawks with Joel Embiid, I think, are one of the best teams. They were the second favorite team by Vegas to win the national championship this year. I don't know how that changes without Joel Embiid. After that, I don't know if there's any other elite teams in this conference, but there really are no bad teams, at least left today. I mean, you could say Texas Tech and TCU are not very good teams, but after that, every one of those other 8 teams can beat one another, and I think all can make a strong case they belong in the NCAA tournament, which means that every game that we have here today is a good basketball game.
And they are. I mean, to have right now Iowa State, K-State, that could easily be a championship game in the Big 12 tournament. And so, and I do want to talk to you about Embiid, because that's obviously the huge story, not just here in Kansas City, but I think around the country. Talk about that in a moment. But I mean, when you look at teams that are capable of winning this thing, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, but KU, even without Embiid, can win this thing. Oklahoma obviously can win this thing. Texas can win it. I think Iowa State can win it. I think Oklahoma State can win it. I know some people have Baylor as maybe a sexy Cinderella pick. I'm not sure that I see K-State running the table. I mean, 4, 5, 6 teams capable. Does that sound right?
I think maybe even more than that. You know, the weird thing is we've never seen a team win all 4 days and win a Big 12 championship in that regard. So that is a definite challenge, because you got to win 4 days and four games in 4 days. But there are 2 teams this year that are very capable of doing that, in Oklahoma State and Baylor. And it's an interesting trivia question. The last team to win the Big 12 tournament, other than Kansas, that's still in the Big 12, is Baylor, and they've done it twice, because Missouri was the other team. You got to go all the way back to Oklahoma State winning it over 10 years ago to find some other team in this field. So Baylor's capable. I mean, everybody makes fun of Scott Drew. They give him a hard time, but he's shown he can actually win this tournament. They've got the talent. They've been playing really good basketball of late. And so, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't rule a single of these 8 teams out. Like you said, it might be hard for K-State to put 3 wins together in a row like this, but they've already shown they can beat Iowa State, who they're playing today.
If they get by Iowa State now, aren't they capable of anything? I mean,
why not? I mean, they've shown they can beat KU, and they've shown they can beat Oklahoma State. So, I mean, I wouldn't count anybody out.
All right, so if you had to pick one team, and that's harder to do now that Embiid's out. I mean, it'd be really easy to make the KU pick, regardless of where your past loyalties or current loyalties are.
Right.
I think it's a little bit harder to make that pick now. I think anybody that wants to pick KU to win this thing is they're putting their reputation out there a little bit more. So who do you like?
If I had to pick somebody, I think I still pick Kansas. That doesn't mean that I'm real confident that they're going to go win this thing. I'm not confident in anybody to win this thing, but if you put a gun to my head and say you got to pick somebody, I'll still go with Kansas. I believe they're still the favorite by the odds maker standards to win. They still have, I think, the best player in Andrew Wiggins and a whole bunch of other really talented players and more depth than everybody else. But, I mean, it also wouldn't stun me. You wouldn't be able to knock me over if, you know, they lost today to Oklahoma State. So if I have to pick somebody, I'll pick Kansas, but I'm not feeling great about it.
All right, I want to ask you, and this is pertaining to Joel Embiid, and I know there's been controversy this week and all that. Forget about what was said, what wasn't said. I'm more interested in how it's going to affect this team and how it's going to affect their seed. And you had Mike DeCourcy on the radio yesterday for, I thought, a great discussion with maybe the best college basketball writer in the country, because he's been there and he's been in those, you know, those mock meetings. How do you think Embiid, or how do you think KU is judged this week, or will they be judged? I actually was there in 2000, or at least the game after when Cincinnati went down, because I was in St. Louis, and the Billikens suddenly found themselves in a position, and they ran the table in part because of that injury that affected Cincinnati, and that's really where a lot of this is coming from now.
Kenyon Martin injury.
This Kenyon Martin injury went down, I think it was a broken foot or a broken ankle, and that opened the door for another team, and then Cincinnati obviously was affected with their seeding. So what do you think happens? What should happen?
It's a great question, and it's a very difficult one. I know Mike DeCourcy told us when he was on that he thinks the selection committee got it wrong when they penalized Cincinnati for losing Kenyon Martin. He feels that you should be judged off your body of work. Who'd you beat? Who'd you play? Where'd you play him? All those things are supposed to be what you factor in, not what might you be like without whatever player. But I don't think that's going to be how the selection committee views it, because we already know that selection committee people are in close contact, reportedly, with the University of Kansas about the status of Embiid. That means they're factoring it in. How much do they factor it? I don't know that answer. And you know what? There might not be a uniform way that they view it, because every person on the selection committee might have a different attitude. If I'm Bill Self, and I would bet this is the way that he approaches it right now, is this adds intrigue and importance to this tournament. Well, usually this is an afterthought for the Kansas basketball team. The regular season title is a lot more important to them, as it should be, than to win it, but it's not the most important thing on their schedule. It's down the list. It's still not the most important thing, but it adds importance to it, because I think that two things. They have a chance to show the selection committee how good they are even without Joel Embiid, if they can go win some games here. And more importantly, I think they have a chance to show themselves that they can win games without Joel Embiid. Because I think that a lot of people are putting a lot into the fact that when they didn't have Joel Embiid their last time out, they couldn't stop West Virginia. West Virginia had 50 points at halftime. And the easy conclusion that a lot of people are jumping to is, well, you don't have the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, and you give up 50 points. And I think that Bill Self is going to challenge his players. Everybody's saying you can't guard anybody if he's not here. And usually his players, Bill Self's players, respond to a challenge pretty well. And I think it's a chance for them, even if it's not to the selection committee, to prove to themselves, hey, you know what, we're actually a pretty good team without him. And I think they're going to take that mindset into this tournament.
And what does Wiggins do now?
Well, he's coming off a 41-point performance, which was the type of performance that everybody was saying when he came in he was capable of. I don't expect him to go have 41 points a game here in this tournament by any stretch of the imagination. But I do expect to see him as a little bit more of a selfish basketball player. I mean that in a good way. A guy that knows, hey, it's my job to pick these guys up and put them on my back and be a little more confident. I still don't think you're going to go see him shoot 25 shots in a game, because he didn't even do that in the 41-point performance he had. You're going to see him take it to the basket more often. I think you're going to see him turning up a notch defensively here. But I think he still needs to realize he does have a lot of other good players on the floor with him, and he doesn't need to take the thing all the way over himself. All
right, let's wrap this up with a little bit of summary of each team and how they could possibly win this conference tournament. We talked about KU. Let's just go down the list as far as seedings go. Oklahoma, a team that, by the way, I was thinking, I know people have noticed this before, but I think it's interesting that three of the top teams here in the Big 12 all have coaches that either just came from or were at Illinois. I don't really know what that means, but you got Bill Self, Lon Kruger, and Bruce Weber, three of the top 5 seeds here that all came from Illinois. Just a random thing.
It's like what Tulsa used to be. All the good coaches go through Tulsa. It's like Illinois is the launching pad for these guys now.
Now Weber left in different circumstances than the other two guys did, and he's doing better at K-State at this point. But all right, so what does Oklahoma need to do to win?
Well, they're playing better defense. I mean, I think that's the reason that they have a real shot to win this tournament. Is they have not been a very good defensive team for the bulk of the conference, but when they come back from their bye week, they're playing better defense. They run really good offense under Lon Kruger. They got the best rebounder in Spangler in the conference, so I think they've got to continue to play good defense. If they can do that, they would figure to match up, if the chalk holds, with Texas in the semifinal game. Texas plays great defense, so they're going to have to match them defensively. They've already beaten Texas twice this year. So, you know, that old adage, is it hard to beat somebody 3 times in one season? That could come to fruition. We'll have to see if that happens.
And then on Texas's side, some great guards, obviously. That's a team that can score.
They are, and also this is actually, as good as this conference is, it's lacking in post presence. There's a lot. Everybody wishes they had more depth and more size. in this conference, with the exception of Kansas when they had Joel Embiid. In fact, Kansas still probably has more depth than everybody else other than Texas inside, but Texas is one of those teams that has size. Cameron Ridley, Jonathan Holmes, these are guys that can bang inside. They've got to take advantage of those guys and continue to play the good defense that they've had in the regular season.
Well, let's talk about Iowa State. I think they're a fun team. I mean, maybe it's just the fact that I like the mayor. It's fun to root for Fred Hoiberg. It's fun to see a team that's been down for a lot of years be a legitimate program. And I think I was reading from Blair Kirkhoff the other day that they had gone 16 years with 3 all Big 12 players, and now this year they have 2 first-team all Big 12 players. So how important are those two? They got the Big 12 Player of the Year.
Well, very important. And the thing about Iowa State, they're like the opposite of what we just said about Texas. They play the best offense in the conference, or at least in terms of points per game. Part of that's because they get up and down really fast, but they shoot the 3 like crazy. They only shoot 34% from beyond the arc. And really, though, when you put it on paper, that's as good as shooting 50% from 2-point range. And he knows that, and I think he's fine with them shooting that. They can invert their offense. They can create matchup problems. They will score. A lot of times the question with Iowa State is, will they guard the way they're supposed to?
I think the big TV just went off up here, and so there's some
during a
booing going
major
on.
report from ESPN about the status of Nadir Tharp, so all the KU fans are not quite happy about that cliffhanger.
Where's the rock chalk? There, it's back on. See? And we have no idea what that report was, but they're trying to get the audio back.
She was referencing Nadir Tharp's dislocated thumb, but then we didn't find out what the end result of that's going to be.
The folks here at P&L want more Holly Rowe, and they're also hoping that who doesn't? And they're also hoping, at least the KU fans, that she doesn't have to stand on top of a table like she did in Oklahoma City at Oklahoma State. Was that in Manhattan?
Yeah,
it was in Manhattan. That's right. I'm getting it mixed up now. That was the K-State game.
When they beat KU, so it's they run together.
Hey, they stormed the court when they beat my Badgers the other day, Nebraska.
Yeah.
And then good for them. They deserve that. All right, back on track here. K-State, what do they have to do?
Well, right now, the first thing they got to do is take care of Iowa State. It's a 1-point game right now as we're doing this interview. But the K-State, I think they're extremely well coached. They've got to get good play, to me, from Will Spradling. You know, he's a guy that had really started to come on as a senior leading the team. And, you know, he'd been banged up for much of the year. And when he started to feel healthy and started to play up to his capability, it really gave them an extra spark, especially in terms of senior leadership. I think they need good play out of him. Obviously, Marcus Foster is huge. They get the ball inside, they'll be in good shape because I think that Thomas Gibson is one of the better low post scorers in the league. But you know, they're a good defensive team as well. And if they keep playing defense the way that they have all season long, they've got a shot.
How about Oklahoma State? And we know at least the recent turnaround they've had. I thought you and Mike DeCourcy had some really interesting comments about Smart yesterday, and I guess maybe the best way to describe him would be, now there's a lot of ways. Enigmatic would be one way, wouldn't it?
Emotional. That's how I would describe him. I mean, he plays on emotion. He thrives on emotion. That's what makes him such a polarizing player. I think it's when he's at his best. It's one of the reasons he's at his best, but it's also when he's at his worst why he is at his worst. And I think that some of that emotional maturity still needs to come. I'm personally a little disappointed that we haven't seen more of that emotional maturity after the shoving incident at Texas Tech. I really thought that might be a watershed moment for him. I see him change the way that he plays the game in some ways, but we haven't really seen it. Now, they have played better since he came back. They've won 5 out of 6. Their one loss was nothing to be ashamed of. It was an overtime loss at Iowa State, but Mike DeCourcy pointed out he made a couple of foolish decisions at the end of that game that really cost them. He fouled out of the game. And sometimes that whole idea, I think that emotional and competitive spirit in him, he thinks he's got to take everything personally. He's always got to play with a chip on his shoulder and those things. But sometimes it's to his detriment. I think for Oklahoma State to pull off 3 wins in a row, he's got to be the great Marcus Smart that had the 6 steals that he had last night, but also be a more mature Marcus Smart and calm down in the face of adversity and in the face of, you know, there are going to be some close games. I mean, I expect every game here to be down to the wire the rest of the way. So he's got to be able to handle those situations.
Okay, West Virginia, we don't hear a whole lot about them, although after last weekend, the upset victory over KU, obviously Wiggins stole the spotlight with the 41, but West Virginia is a team with a couple of really, really pure scores, right?
No doubt about it. I mean, Juwan Staten, I think, is the best point guard in this conference, one of the best in the country, according to Bob Huggins. KU had no answer for him. There's no doubt about that when they played in Morgantown. Aaron Harris is a really good scorer, and their big guys are starting to come along. They made things difficult for Kansas in that game in Morgantown as well. So, look, if they had not had such a bad non-conference, which ifs and buts and all that, but had they played a better non-conference and not had some of the bad losses they had in that situation, I think we'd be talking about a team that is in the tournament right now. A win or two here, and they might be in it after all.
Okay, last one. Just end up getting a Baylor here. They obviously had the win last night. As expected, it was a little closer than maybe they would have been comfortable with. But they're a different team now, obviously. I mean, I'll ask it to you this way. Are they the team now that was expected at the beginning of the season? Because they certainly were miserable early on.
Yeah, they were good in non-con. They were ranked number 7 in the country, I believe, going into league play. Then they lost whatever it was, 7 in a row in conference play. They started out, I believe, 2-8.
Kind of like Oklahoma State at one point.
Yeah, started out 2-8 in the league, and then they've gone back on to win 8 games the rest of the way. So they really put things together. They are playing their best basketball of the season. The win at K-State is by far the most impressive because they went on the road to a place that nobody had won in the league this year on their senior day, and they won a basketball game. So how do you factor them out? They've got size. Rico Gathers, one of the biggest wide bodies in the league. Isaiah Austin is big but doesn't play big, but he can shoot the 3, which makes matchup problems. Heslop's one of the best 3-point shooters in the conference. Kenny Cherry's starting to play better. So they're a factor. I mean, they're absolutely a factor. Now the question is, do they guard enough? They do the things that Scott Drew wants them to do enough to win 4 games for them. Now the first game wasn't a bye, but they played TCU. They weren't going to lose that game. Now it really starts today.
Well, it's all going to be a lot of fun, as it always is, and a great environment down here. And as you were talking, I was looking up with just under 10 minutes left, and K-State's up in a close game. DeAndre Kane just picked up his 4th foul. So that will present quite a few challenges for Iowa State and might be a music to Wildcats fans' ears.
Yeah, and K-State up by 3 points right now in that situation. So I bet you this one goes all the way down to the last minute.
Just like you mentioned, it's going to be that way, I think, all weekend long. Nate, enjoy it all, and good stuff down here. I know you'll be back on the radio tomorrow morning.
We'll do it again tomorrow morning. Watch us on 38 The Spot, and listen to us on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, the great Nate Bukaty. I'm Joel Goldberg, and more of the festivities coming up here at the Power and Light District on 810 WHB TV.
There's advantage of Wildcats right now. 2 players on the sideline. big contributor. 5 a.m. and Jack's ERA just a hit. Emily's missing. Yeah, one of those. Kevin almost nailed it this time. And when this happens, we'll be here, fueling the neighborhood with performance gas and just about everything else, like we have been for the past 80 years. Phillips 66, proud to be here.
Я так уже тебя мелкие кусочки посадил посыпали на большую чашу с мороженым. I have no idea what you're saying, but count me in.
Life insurance from New York Life can help your family keep good going.
Throughout his life, Pint-sized point guard Nate Robinson has always taken on big things. He's never been intimidated by big things. In fact, he embraced them. So for Nate Robinson, taking down Taco Bell's biggest, most ultimate steak taco was no big deal. But you are not Nate Robinson. The new Double XL Steak Crispy Taco with double the steak and a double XL shell. Regular size for Nate Robinson, double XL for you.
Chris Cotter in Bristol, Big East quarterfinals, Seton Hall down 1 to top seed Villanova, designing a play with 3.7 left. Sterling Gibbs, step back right there. For those, it's a win, and it is for the Pirates. They upset Villanova at Madison Square Garden, 64-63. Brett, we are knee-deep in the madness already.
What a few weeks we've got. And Villanova, that #1 seed, as Chris showed you, losing to Seton Hall, that's in jeopardy. You've got to look out for Wolverines or Kansas, and it looks like Joe Lenardi ranks Michigan on that curve that you use. Michigan would be the one to replace Villanova if there's a switch. I'm sure Joey Brackett's using this moment to computers on.
We should know in the next 10 minutes, Brent. I would say that. Villanova, great season.
Brackett's in seven. Tell Fred, I got Michigan.
I'm going with Brackets. Good win for Kevin Hood. In fact, his father, Ralph, is scouting for him.
Now, Foster opens up, and the young man having a career day takes it in, and the Wildcats are over again.
How about that, Brent? He played minimal minutes on Saturday against Baylor at home. Great pass by Monte Morris. He's been doing that all day long.
And that's a foul on Nino Williams.
Great spin move by Kane. Spradling never knew what hit him. Those two freshmen.
Well, I was thinking of disadvantage defensively. That was good work by the K-State coaches because Kane's not going to step in and help out of that situation.
Absolutely.
And Holiday say, is that what they talked about over there in that huddle?
What just happened on the floor is exactly what Chris Webber just drew up in the huddle. The last words he said to Nigel before they broke the huddle, just remember that alley will be open. The right side's overloaded. The alley will be open. And boy, he remembered what his coach said.
Absolutely. Southwell. Nigel being hounded by long splits him again. It's not quick. Southwell's open. Three, no, short of the iron. And reaches in. That can happen out of frustration. We see it in so many basketball games. You make a miss, you go after your missed shot, contact somebody, and that's his third foul.
He's trying to prolong what has been a very solid career for Kansas State. He went to Rice High School and won the game manager, right?
Being the 12,
Yeah.
Linda Hicks.
Yeah. Kendall Walker went to Rice High School. They closed it down. So there are no more Rice alums in Southwell.
What a day Homer's had. He's above his average today, as you can see. Contributed 18 points and 10 rebounds. So he's picked up the slack for the Cyclones. He puts them up by 2. Coming down to 5.5 minutes now. Great day
Marcus is lost. 3 of them lost. Frank needs coffee. Now. Kristen just got her license. And it shows. Gus will get a hang of it. And when that happens, we'll be here. Fueling the neighborhood with performance gas and just about everything else, like we have been for the past 80 years. Phillips 66. Proud to be here.
Half-fresh cheeseburgers at St. Patrick's Day. Can you believe it?
You're welcome very much.
How's that?
I found a 4-leaf clover earlier today, and I wished for this, and it came true.
All the things you could have wished for. It was half-fresh cheeseburger.
And it came true. It's awesome.
If you could have wished for anything, why did you not wish for a yacht?
Why am I even half a yacht?
You would have wished for the whole yacht.
You don't know what I would wish for.
Wish granted. Cheeseburgers are half price all day on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. This is how you sign it.
This is the Quicksilver Cashback Card from Capital One. It's not the juggle a bunch of rotating categories card. It's not the sign up for rewards each quarter card. It's the no games, no messing around, no earning limit having. Do I look like I'm guilty? Turbo Boost me. Tell me the Lord! Cashback Card. This is the Quicksilver Cashback Card from Capital One. Unlimited 1.5% cashback on every purchase, everywhere, every single day. That's it. What's in your
And these honey mustard Swiss chicken sandwiches go nuts.
Something totally scored with this flavor, man. It's like Swiss.
No, it's swish.
No, the sound of the basketball makes going through
Yeah,
that.
swish.
Swiss.
Swish is the sound of
It's Swiss.
The swish.
Okay, why don't we settle this over a game of horse?
Try horse.
Okay, why don't we settle this over a game of horse?
Did you hear the news? Honey mustard and Swiss chicken sandwiches are here. And start your day with the 99-cent morning drink stop. This is how you sign it.
DeAndre Kane following out for the first time this year. Goes over to Smith for more of an explanation. And he thought that Gibson was inside that circle, but clearly he was not. Take a look at this.
Well, and most importantly, Brent, you know, it's very close. I think he's established. He's outside the circle. But if you're DeAndre King with 4 fouls, you cannot risk that play. You must pull up and shoot